direct. Dr. Amo, thank you so much for your time. Reading that as it was, written by a newspaper probably to the right of things, so they're going to write about this in glowing terms, there don't seem to be any problems. What do you see it? What do you see the problems in this being? Surely they just want to help people who want to get to work. They're just helping those get into employment.
Good afternoon, Tricia. Well, look, I've been doing my job nearly 30 years now, and I've seen these kind of initiatives reinvented every decade or so by whichever government's in power. And let's get one thing straight. Disabled people do want to work. There's no doubt about that. I think that includes people with mental health problems. The issue we have is the structure, the infrastructure to support them into work isn't there. And and the bits of infrastructure that are there, the government aren't really pushing that. Let me give you an example. I wonder how many of your viewers have heard of the Access to Work scheme, which has been around for decades. And the Access to Work helps disabled people at interview level. And once they've got the job, then it helps the employer with purchasing equipment, or goes as far as helping provide an additional support worker to keep that person in employment. Now, how many times there you go. How many times have you driven around the high street and seen any billboards with adverts for Access to Work?
It's a secret.
and this is the kind of initiative that will get people into work, and more importantly, help sustain people in employment. Because the biggest thing then, and the thing that my charity and many charities like Disability Direct across the country face, is that there's so many people who, once they get employment, they're just not got the employers haven't got the understanding of how to support disabled people. You know, how many people in the office or on the shop floor have had disability equality training, so that when an employee, a disabled employee, joins them, that
even like mental health training. I know, because I've been involved in delivering that, helping deliver mental health in the workplace, and mental health first aid as you've got physical health, first aiders on every floor, having a mental health first aider as well. I don't know what the uptake to that. I mean, there tends to be, it's interesting, the sectors that have really taken it up, and I was quite surprised, is the banking sector. It's interesting because the banking sector realizes that a lot of people, especially with mental health issues, seem to be really good when it comes to banking. And I was pleasantly surprised about how robust that sector seems to be. But they're way ahead of most other areas.
They are, and that's a really good thing to hear. But as I say, there's so many other sectors that are there that still, I won't even say they're on catch up. There's just so many areas that
they're not up to the starting line.
They're not, and that's where I really struggle. I mean, I'm somebody myself who's had a relationship with depression, and I've held down a job for 30 years and rose to the top of my profession. So people with mental health can work and will work if the structures are there. And the issue I've got, as I said earlier, getting them into work is one thing, but then looking at the disparities. Did your viewers know there's around 14% pay gap between disabled employees and non-disabled employees? The society's still got a lot of work to do just to get disabled people on an equal footing to stay in employment. And that's even more for people with autism. There's 33% pay difference. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, you still got to eat. Now, one of the things is, that limit that you can reach before you can work so many hours before you have benefits taken away from you, and it's not a realistic one for many people, and they can cross it by like a pound and lose so much. And if they only stick to the hours which they're allowed, it means them, apparently, if you're sent on a training course, for instance, and you're paid for that training course, or the training course costs your employer something, and the tax office may see that as earnings to you. It doesn't come to your pocket, but if your business hadn't paid for it, hadn't given money for it. And so all this, it's so complicated, and it's very easy for people to go over that line and have their benefits cut and then live in that limbo land of, can I work, can I not work? Surely one thing that needs to be done is, apart from advertising what there is also simplifying and making sure that people have a living wage.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about is common sense being applied here to those kind of discussions between DWP and people looking for work. I've said this many times. The benefit system when it comes to employment is too binary. There's no allowance for those kind of scenarios that you've just mentioned. Common sense needs to be applied. That if you want to get disabled people into work, you're going to have to. When I started in my charity, they gave me actually an extra £10 a week to volunteer and learn some skills. That did not affect my benefits at all. It was just a boost for me and call it an incentive or whatever. It didn't affect my benefits, and I carried on doing this training program with an extra tenner in my pocket. And I mean, look where I am today. I'm the CEO of that very same charity that I went to volunteer for. And so it can work if common sense is applied. But, as I say, it's too binary. A lot of work needs to be done. And there's too many consultations that don't take into consideration.
Don't get me started on not including service users' voices. I mean, I thought we were way down the line with this, actually having lived experience be at the heart of any of these policies. It's so patchy. The other thing as well is they're talking about people with mental health issues working from home. Is that a plus or is that a minus?
Well, look, disabled people have been saying long before the pandemic that we can work from home. People with mental health issues have said the same thing. It's not an issue, but suddenly the world has woken up and realised that it can be done. So, I think it is a.
But that's only because able-bodied people have shown that it can be done during the pandemic. So all of these businesses go,
It's always the case, isn't it? And I'm afraid, as I say, look, the thing is, there is this argument that if people with mental health problems are left at home, it's only going to make their situation more kind of it's dangerous for them. But I think my concern is that there needs to look at hybrid working. My company now has hybrid. People can work from home or come into the office. It's their choice. As simple as that. And when people know, as long as, like you say, there are mental health champions in the workplace who will stay in touch with anybody who's identified themselves as at risk, then conversations can be had, and that people can say, okay, let's go in the office.